Glorious Tyrannizing of Human Rats is the fifth full-length album from Barcelona, Spain-based death metal band Decapitated Christ. It would be fair to consider their sound old school in the sense that all of their references, all of their style, and their goal comes from the 90s death metal experience. And I wouldn't say just limited to early 90s. This is definitely a band that a lot of people have compared to not only, Sinister and Pestilence over the years, but also more modern equivalents that touch upon more Morbid Angel influence, whether it is Aeon or Vomitory, and that's kind of my take on it. Is that there's quite a bit of groove that comes from kind of late 90s ideas in there. There isn't a ton of Morbid Angel influence left in their sound, and their discography came from this blasphemic kind of darker thrashing place early on. It moved toward groove pretty quickly in terms of their emphasis of their style on the first couple of records, and I think by the fourth record, they had changed some of their lineup, they had changed some of their ideas, and their sound began to incorporate a little bit more bolt thrower in their style. It was a logical progression. They needed somewhere to go with those heavier grooves, and it wasn't jungle rot, it was bolt thrower. And the result was great. Their 2014 record, their fourth record, it came really quick after the third, and it was their first for F.D.A. Records, and it was kind of not a huge deal at the time, but it was cool. If you're always like me, I'm always looking for something with a little bit of 90s bolt thrower in it. So that's what I remember of the band before they broke up in 2016, and I think it's worth going back and kind of checking out some of their discography, but probably just stick to Arcane and Purity Ceremonies. It really is the best precedence and comparison to make, because it has been about 10 years, and that style of that record has evolved directly into this much better record they've come out with right now. Well, let's just cut to a song here and to get an example of up front what this band is all about. So this band is always focused on the riff, but that doesn't mean that these songs are riff driven in the way that kind of late 80s death metal was, or the early 90s stuff where, it's not Massacre so much as it is something like Benediction, or I make the comparison to Alter, the Dutch band, a little bit, because there's Deicide in there. There's a little bit of that aggressive thrashing groove. But also there's a bit of bolt thrower, there's a bit of like the Pestilence-esque side of early Merciless in some of their work. It's there's a full palette going on there, and they're not reaching from just one place. And what that means, it's sort of like an everything death metal album at once, but then there's also this sort of infernal side to it that you'll pick up on through deeper listens, and sort of, if you like the details of that kind of thing. That isn't really even what's that interesting about it. I'm just, it's making the point that this is going to be a band. It's going to take you a while to get your head wrapped around what this is in relation to old school death metal and now, and kind of the time when they formed. And the interesting thing they do with this record is they take some of the keyboards that they put into the 2014 record, and they emphasize some of the biggest moments on this album with them. So they're not, this isn't a Septic Flesh record, but they certainly do bring in something that's different than like a Nocturnus style death metal band. And they use it to emphasize choruses sometimes. Other times it's an accompaniment to a melody or a riff, and it sounds very accomplished. It's well integrated and thoughtful in this record. It's not just a funny sound that perks up the edge of a song. So plenty of riffs, plenty of death metal, great heavy sound, and really strong production team behind the whole thing. So it turns out really well. It still has that old school grit to it, but there's a lot of extra details to figure out in going back to this record and giving it the due attention. So I liked it quite a bit. I was surprised. I thought, well, this is going to be a cool old school death metal record, and that'll be that. But I really do feel like this is above average. I think that if you spend time with it and give it its dues, and get past trying to find any real associations with what they're doing in the past, it's a great death metal record and worth checking out. So it is a high recommendation for me. Go ahead and read the review for more of my thoughts and pick up the record. It releases tomorrow.
Everything alive is blue. Your bottle